Are you ready to unlock secrets to self-publishing success? Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, this interview reveals the tools and strategies you need to thrive in the ever-changing world of indie publishing. Joining me today is none other than Sylvia Hubbard, a true legend in the indie author community. Sylvia is an award-winning author with over 2 decades of experience, founder of the Motown Writers Network, and the creative force behind over 50 books that span romance, suspense, and thrillers. Her dedication to uplifting writers through workshops, events, and community support has made her a cornerstone in independent publishing. If you're a writer, you'll want to hear what Sylvia has to say as she dives deep into my latest book series. And if you want to catch the first 2 parts in my 12-part series called Self-Publishing with Dale, oddly enough, you can pick up a copy at every major retailer or visit the links inside the description. Without any further ado, let's get into this candid interview guest hosted by Sylvia Hubbard.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Hubbard, and I am an author and founder of Motown Writers Network. And I want to say one of the biggest fans of Dale Roberts ever.
Thank you.
We've known each other. Well, he's known me more than I've known him, which is really weird because once I met him and found out about him, then I fanned him. So it was just crazy. But I've been watching his journey, and now he has this ongoing series to help authors to produce, publish, market better, that I think it should be in every author's library as a main resource, because he's just changing the game for authors who are struggling, authors who are up there but don't know where to go. And I needed to talk about it. And I have the pleasure and honor to be able to talk to him about all about it. So we're going to go with his first 2, and he's going to introduce those 2, and then we're going to get into the questions. So, Dale, please right now tell everybody about you really quickly, because there's so much of it. And then I want you to talk about the first 2 books.
Yeah, I'm Dale L. Roberts. I am a self-published author, have been for the last decade now, which is kind of crazy. I'm catching up to you, Sylvia. I'm catching up to you. But it's been about a decade that I've been in the business, and I am a full-time author and video creator. A lot of people might recognize my bald head and orange shirt from over on YouTube, where I dispense advice about how to write and self-publish books. This whole book series was born of the fact that, well, naturally, people watch a video and they go, okay, where are your books? I want books about self-publishing. And I answered the call back in 2020. I put out 4 books about self-publishing, but I've discovered now that those don't really cover everything. So I said, you know what, let's do an entire series that covers everything that an author could possibly need to know. So that way it's exhaustive. Now, I have to admit to you something here, Sylvia. You don't realize this, but the reason why I'm doing it all at once was, first of all, one, I kept stockpiling books. That was my biggest issues. I was like, you know what? I've got this. I'll just put it off the side until, later, and I'll go ahead and edit. Because, editing's not easy. So I kept just procrastinating it and procrastinating. By the way, I'm a master procrastinator. So I ended up doing all those. And the other thing is I want to be a fiction writer. I've always wanted to be a fiction writer since I was a boy. When I got into the business, I got into it as nonfiction. It was like I happened to this business kind of by accident. It wasn't really intended to be this way. Here I am a decade later, and I really want to focus on pivoting fully over to fiction. So my thought was, let me do an entire series so I cover everything I possibly know inside a 12-book series. That way, there's no one author out there going, well, Dale doesn't have the answers. I'll be darned if you won't find the answers in this dozen books.
For the first and second books, they introduce the author into the publishing world, getting it once you have your book finished, the editing process. So for the first book, let's first talk about your challenges. Let's get into the hard part first.
Yeah.
The first book is because there's so much to, once you begin, once you get that idea, okay, I want to take this manuscript and I want to publish it. How did you condense it down? Because I love that it wasn't like a collegiate level.
Right.
Collegiate level. Because usually I get those books and it's like, oh my, when am I going to have time to sit down and actually go through this? But what was the construct behind, okay, we're going to hit it and quit it. I'm not going to make you feel dumb, but you're going to understand how to just step into the world of publishing without me intimidating you, frying your mind, and getting you started?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think instinct is one of those things, and you can't teach intuition.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you will kind of build in due time as an author, is figuring out, okay, what does my audience want and what do they need? Because
Mm-hmm.
sure, they may want to learn everything possible under the sun. However, do they really need all of that? And actually, the funny thing is, those first two books were actually one book at one point or another. And that was the problem I was facing, kind of like what you were saying. Like, it was almost college level. It was packed. And I knew that when I was done with that manuscript, I went, oh boy, I've got a problem here because this is way too much. I don't even want to even go in here and edit this thing. It's so freaking big. So I think
Right.
what I ended up doing was I separated it out. Now, the separating part was the difficult part because obviously they were kind of it was kind of embedded. The two of them were
Right.
kind of together. So I
You
had to
could
figure out,
tell when you got to the second book, you could tell how it was intertwined with
yep.
other stuff. And I love that. But I'll tell you like that. I'll tell you about that.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
It was a little difficult, obviously, to separate those two things. But when I did have them separated, it was much better. And you'll notice too, as well, that the self-publishing for new authors, the first book is a lot longer than the second book, Advanced
Mm-hmm.
Self-Publishing for Authors, and that's because I would say it was about roughly 30% of the actual total book. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, let's separate this out and let's make sure that we put a little bit more substance into this advanced self-publishing for authors. And
Right.
so that was the real challenge that I had in putting these two together. But it was tons of fun. And like I said, it's gut instinct. And I think, gosh, let's see here, Sylvia, I'm working on 1,600 videos between two channels.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
think that that has been a great feedback loop for me. So when I go
Mm-hmm.
and publish a video, I get comments. And when I get comments or I get views or I see even watch time, I start to
Mm-hmm.
see what resonates most with my audience. So it's knowing exactly what people want to talk about, for how long they want to talk about, and how in
Mm-hmm.
depth they want to talk about it. Because I could sit here and bloviate about advanced self publishing for authors for tomes if I wanted to, but I wanted to kind of strip it down so that way it wasn't intimidating for someone like you. You've been in the business for a while. I want you to look at a book and go, all right, that's doable. I could sit down and read this, as opposed to like this big thick war and peace thing about self-publishing, and you're like halfway through and you're questioning life and going, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to go ahead and just stick to other things besides being an author.
Right. And that was it. Because once I got into the second book, because I was like going through the first book and I was like, okay, I know this, I know this. I'm just trying to refresh and see how does this compare to the second one? And then when I got into the second one, and that's why I had to read that one twice, because I was like, I was trying to first compare what wasn't in this one that was in that one and why were they, I was analyzing it as I do. But I love that when you get into the second book and of course, you're an author with 2, 3 books, and you've been out there on the streets, and now you're just trying to, okay, I do need this advanced one. And I would recommend it for everybody as mandatory because you didn't dumb it down. You didn't make me feel like I was lost, but I love how you did the refreshers. Like we got the quick refreshers without me trying to dig through information because I get like sometimes I'll get other books and I gotta dig through all the elementary information in order to get to the collegiate level, which is what I'm trying to do. And I like that this book just popped off as, okay, I know where you are and let's go from here instead of, hey, let's go back and do all this refresher. And that's what I loved and how it's all parsed out. So yeah, it was good. And I like how the book started because you were given a story and it didn't make me feel like I was going to a college lecture. It made me feel, it really changed my brain instantly into receiving the information that was going to follow. And it was just, and when I was listening to the book, because I went and bought I went and bought the book from Amazon too, so I could listen through Alexa. So I
Yeah.
thought she had switched to another book because all of a sudden it's telling me this story about video games. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I listening to And then it just and that but then the comparison was awesome because I think I have been trying to tell authors that the quick win. And okay, so we're going to go into it now.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
We're going to go the quick wins that authors are titillated by, but those are not where you should stay. And you discussed a little bit in the first one, but in the second one you really went down on it. And I want you to just go into that a little, like, why shouldn't you just be okay with just the quick wins instead of going through the entire journey? Because some authors will just, okay, I got New York Times best-selling because they did a group bundle anthology, so now they can say, okay, this is all I'm going to be doing. And they never go anywhere else. That's all you see is, okay, New York Times bestseller. And that's all. They just keep coming out with books, but they aren't doing anything else. So why shouldn't they just be satisfied with just that?
I look at it this way. There's two ways to kind of look at this. One is, this is a business to me. This is what pays my bills. Like, this is my job. A lot of people, like, I've even had some people in my videos before, they're like, get a real job. And I'm like, this real job, this fake job that I'm doing is paying me pretty well. So I don't know why do I want to go to a real job? But if you're looking at trying to monetize this business and actually get paid your value, then you have to treat it like a business. Now, if you're a hobbyist, by all means, continue to do that. It's okay if you like those quick victories. If publishing the book is what tickles your fancy, great, fantastic. If it's selling one copy to somebody near you is your idea of a victory, great. But I also like to think that you've put all of your heart and soul into your manuscript. You've taken all this extra time. What if I could be able to just show you just a few micro actions you can take per day that would increase the likelihood of selling more books, of reaching more readers? Wouldn't you want to hear it? And that's the whole thing is, I always try to think of, how can I be able to earn a living from this and continue to grow that earnings? Because, inflation and all that type of stuff. So I really try to think about, what can we do as authors that will better cement our legacy as authors and building this big backlog of books that readers want to continually devour and share with other readers as well.
It's so many questions because it was it was really like I really enjoyed it. Is now I do have to ask, is there like a do you have like on your Dell list link, like you mentioned, like keeping track of your sales, keeping track of your Instagram followers, keeping track of your media and social promotions and stuff like that? Or is there a real way to, because it's like so much you have to do as you go through the book, and the first one and the second one, you're like, okay, this idea, okay, I can do this one. Do you have a download, or do you know?
I probably should, like a checklist of some sort. I probably should do that. I have yet to do it, but I think what you're making mention of was the press kit that you put together. And for me, anytime I'm doing my press kit, I usually update it every quarter. At least annually. The only reason why I do it every quarter is I get such a regular influx of sponsorships and different opportunities like speaking engagements and things like that. Yeah, and then I have to kind of just keep all this stuff up to date. So my follower count, my subscribers, my watch time, and in some instances, if it's like a sponsorship deal, something I didn't share inside the book, I don't think I did, where I share some of the conversion rates. So for instance, if I've already worked with a sponsor before, I will show what was the proof of concept, why am I worth investing in. So that's one concept I didn't share, I don't think, inside the book, but at least I did share the thing about social media following, your books, your backlog of books that you want to include in that press kit. But no, I probably should get a checklist put together for something like that. It was just something I guess I never thought about. See, this is why we got to talk more often.
So what is one mistake advanced authors make or forget when they get to the multiple book era of their life? Or one tip you'd like to give to help advanced authors not make, like, don't do this, or you shouldn't ever do this?
Man, I tell you, the one thing I notice is with a lot of veteran authors out there is they're very stuck in their ways, that they're just like, this is what has worked for me, and I'm going to continue to do it. And sometimes they do that to their detriment, where
Yeah.
some things might have worked a number of years ago, but they don't work now. I really admire someone. His name's Mark Leslie Lefebvre, and Mark is the founder of Kobo Writing Life. He's now also a consultant for Drafted Digital. You know, a couple of very major independent publishing companies, fantastic
Mhm.
companies, and I admire about him. He's been in the business since the early '90s,
Mhm.
so he's been around for a while, and so I love the fact that for him, he's always learning. He's reading my books. I was like, "What do you read?" Like, and Sylvia freaking Hubbard reads my books, and that to me speaks volumes. That you're not just going, "Okay, this guy is newer than me. I'm not going to pay attention to him because
Right.
I already know my stuff." So sometimes I think a lot of the established authors get in their own way. They think,
Mhm.
oh, and I don't want to say this wrong, but they feel almost like they're too good to consume that content. And whether it be even mine or somebody else's. Now, the reason why I bring up Mark is about what was earlier this year. We were emailing each other back and forth, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm finishing up my degree in creative writing with a focus on publishing." And I'm like, "What are you freaking kidding me? This man's a prolific fiction and nonfiction author. He went to get a creative writing degree with a focus on publishing, a man who
Wow.
founded a company that is being used by hundreds of thousands of authors right now, distributing to Kobo, a very massive platform, yet he continues to learn."
I would
And
love to see his first day of school with everybody else sitting in the room. Like,
yeah, can you imagine?
okay, who are you? And
Yep. And nobody would know that this jolly green giant, by the way, Mark Lefebvre is, I swear he has to be all of like 10 foot tall. He tells me
oh,
6'3", but I don't know. I think probably closer to 6'6" at least. But, yeah, he definitely stands out. And I'm sure like they probably, if anybody knew the
wow.
impact that he made in the world. So this is something that has kept me humbled as well myself, that I think to
Mhm.
myself, like when I feel like I know it all, the universe always checks me, by the way. From time to time, I'll get some type of a trolling comment that will, take me down a peg or two. Or for some reason, like I might have misstated something or I didn't give the proper information. And I realize, oh gosh, I still have a lot to learn. So I think that
Right.
that's what a lot of authors need to understand is that this is a continual journey. You never really ever hit like master status.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
hit like unless of course you're Stephen freaking King, you're not going to hit the peak of that mountain. You're always going to keep going up and up
Right.
and never settle for that. And so that's something that I always do. In fact, right now, a good friend of mine, Johnny Andrews, had actually shot me access to his course about building an online business and such. And I'm learning it because I want to continue to learn and grow. And I want to
Right.
mature and I want to figure out how can I better do this business in a way that's efficient and can give me a lot more time that I can do other things like I don't know, hang out with my
Gotcha.
friends like Sylvia or heck, I could even go up to Detroit. What are we doing it like from here for anyways?
I know. But yeah, and that's what I think that's always what I've admired about you and your journey and watching, you go through these 10 years is that you're always learning more information and then you immediately share and you're a person after my own heart because I see so many authors just they think they can just set it and forget it.
Oh,
And
I
I don't
wish we
need to
could.
grow. I wish
I
I
wish
wish
we could.
I've been trying for 25 years to figure that out. If I haven't found it out yet, then, but and I love how you challenge authors in these books to get out there and you'll lead them to the door. You'll give them the key. They can open the door, and you show them this is possible. You just got to step through. And I was reading this book, and when I did the first book, I kind of did it as I reverted my brain to okay, if I'm just starting and I'm reading this book, what is he exactly doing? Because I see a lot of books, and I've read millions of resource books and millions of blogs and seen millions of videos, and a lot of times they don't get that fear out of the way. And I love how you're like, just do it, just challenge yourself and get out there and do it. So I love the encouragement that you drop in. You drop these little, you can do it. This is done, done, done. Here's the steps. Now you try it. And that's how it felt when I was reading through these books. I do want to go into, because you did talk in the second book a lot about, well, not a lot about like the Amazon, the KDP, and then also the joining the Kindle Reads and the Kindle Unlimited program. When an author is trying to make that decision, should I put my book in the Kindle Select or not? What should be the couple of things that they should keep in mind? Because a lot of them will join and don't understand, or a lot of them will join and then just stay there forever.
Yep.
But they don't understand like what it's hindering and what it's not helping them do. Yeah. So what should an author do if they're thinking about it? And what are the criteria of them staying in that program or not staying in that program?
It's a good point. With KDP Select, it's an exclusivity program that is set for a 90-day agreement. You agree that you're going to keep your ebook and your ebook only on the Amazon platform. This does not regard your print or audiobook versions. The exclusivity does not affect any other ebooks that are not enrolled in KDP Select. And being part of that program allows them to lend out your book to subscribers through the Kindle Unlimited program on their Amazon platform, and then you get paid through a big subscription pool. Now, since I've given a good overview, the question is like, hey, should somebody do it or should they not? And when is a good time to know when they should leave? The very first thing is this. Do you want to have your ebook distributed through other platforms off of Amazon? And that could include like libraries, okay? It could include places like, let's say you want to have your book available through Barnes and Noble. That is not going to be available if you're staying on KDP Select. So if you want to limit your reach, that's fine. But there's a lot of people that also will address the fact that 60 to 70% of online publication profits are driven through Amazon. So they're automatically going, okay, this has to be a good fit. Is it though? So here's what I recommend to everybody. Try at least one 90-day cycle with KDP Select with your ebook. It'll give you 3 months of runway that you can study all of the different options that you have outside of Amazon and figure out the best strategy going forward. And in that 3 months, you should be able to determine if you're getting paid your worth. Now, I'm going to throw a number out there because a lot of people aren't really sure. Like, hey, what's a good number? What's something that would make it worth my while? $1,000 or more. If you're doing about $1,000 or more in KDP Select earnings, that's KDP Select earnings alone, then stay with them. That is a significant amount of cash right there. And you're probably getting hundreds of thousands of page reads a day and hopefully getting even purchases of your print books on top of that because of that raising relevance of your product page over there. So KDP Select tool is a good marketing tool. That's really what it is. It's a marketing tool because they give you a couple of different options that you can do. For instance, the 5-day free promotion in US and UK, or you have the 7-day free that's the Kindle Countdown deal. The free promotion is what I'm thinking of, goes worldwide. But either way, it is a marketing tool. If you don't do anything with it, get out. Just get out. Like, don't just let it sit in there passively doing nothing unless you're pulling in $1,000 or more. Because here's the thing is, if it's only just bringing in a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there, you're probably going to make that in sales elsewhere. Not to mention, you could go over to other very similar programs like Kobo Plus. Kobo Plus is exactly like Kindle Unlimited, but it doesn't require exclusivity. So you could get your book into lending programs like that and still be paid your value. Think about that going wide. Now, if for some reason, after you have pulled out a KDP Select, you've published wide, you're like, Dale, I'm making way less money. It can happen, by the way. I can't make guarantees that if you go wide that you're going to make more money. Let's say that you try that out for a year. Give it some time, by the way, if you're going wide, because it's going to be a little harder than going into the KDP Select program. But give it some time. You discover it's not treating you well, then you would delist that book from all those different locations, and then you could go back into KDP Select. I've done it myself before, but I will warn you ahead of time. it's easier to go wide than it is to go exclusive because you're going to want to
Right.
make sure that any avenue you've published your ebook through has been completely delisted and pulled off the marketplace. Because if Amazon for some reason discovers that your book is available somewhere else, yeah, they will
Yeah.
either they'll be nice to you and they'll give you a slap on the wrist and put your book to draft and say, hey, not cool. In other instances, they may even suspend or terminate your account. So
Right.
be
Right.
super careful if you're going from wide back to exclusive.
So authors decide, okay, I'm going to take it wide and I'm going to be able to control my prices, things like that.
Mhm.
But it's just that free book campaign is so enticing,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
have the Bray events, they have the free book stuff your book offers and everything.
Mhm.
So what are tips that can help an author utilize those free book campaigns? I know I
Gosh,
caught you off guard. I
the
caught you off
free, right, the free book promotions are really, really good. And not too many people realize this. Newbies to the business will look at, well, I'm going to give my book away for free. Why do I want to do that? But
guard.
believe it
Hmm.
or not, it's very counterintuitive. It really does work out very well. The very first thing is it builds awareness. All right.
Hmm.
It's better that someone reads your book than no one. And the next thing is it also brings in more reviews because there's more people. So that means it increases
Hmm.
the odds for actually having a review. And if you put a call to action inside your book, at the very end of it, people will hopefully leave a review for you. So that's going to be the whole thing of building that review. Now, as far as getting that deal out to as many places as humanly possible, there's so many ways we can attack this.
Hmm.
But I would say the very first way is going to be networking with other authors in your niche. So if you know someone within your niche, or you don't, go introduce yourself, obviously, but get with other authors inside your niche and start to work and collaborate with them in some capacity, whether it be in-person events or
Hmm.
workshops or webinars would probably be online, or something that is going to be online, something like what you and I are doing right now,
Hmm.
is building that hype around this. You want to make sure that people know about this because, again, kind of like what you and I had alluded to earlier, that just simply having these tools is not enough. You can't just let it sit there passively. You're going to need to run that free promotion. You're
Hmm.
going to need to market and promote it. Now, I would recommend that you do some newsletter swaps with other authors in your niche. So,
Okay.
other authors that, so let's say, for instance, Joanna Penn. Um, we're not close friends or anything else like that, but I would say that her audience is very similar to mine. What we would do is this. Let's say she's getting ready to launch her book. I would go ahead and mention it in my newsletter. And then I'm
Hmm.
getting ready to launch my book, and she would mention it in her newsletter. So this is one of the reasons why I tell a lot of authors that you need an email list. It is absolutely mission critical. If there's one thing, and only one thing, if there's someone said, Dale, gun to my head, they go, you have to choose one thing in your business that you need in order to actually make money. Email marketing every single time. Every single time. That it is the value of email marketing has not gone away. I heard a while ago that email marketing was dead, and I thought that that was just the stupidest thing because I'm over here making money from it. So, yeah, promote it, promote it, promote it. And I will tell you too, as well, there is a wealth of free resources online that will actually promote your book for free. Yeah, they're
Hmm.
going to promote your book for free, that it's free as well. But you might be saying, wait a second, what do they get out of it? A lot of those sites, they work on affiliate programs like the Amazon
Right.
Associates program. So when they refer traffic over there that picks up your book, they're hoping that in addition to getting that free download, that they go and they
Hmm.
buy Bounty paper towels or they buy other books as well on top of that. And
Hmm.
so then those sites actually get additional revenue through that way. But there's a ton of them. In fact, I think if you go to dalelinks.com/book promos, that actually
Hmm.
will give you a list of lists. I went through every single time I find a new list of free and premium promotional websites, I put it right over into that. The reason why is I just go over and I click on that. And when I get ready for a promo, boom, 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 send it on off. And there's also one other resource. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but someone actually runs a Fiverr gig. It's
Uh-huh.
like $5 and they'll submit to all those free sites for you on your behalf. And
Easy.
yeah, and
Let's
it
get it started.
saves you a lot of time. Yeah, it's in it. And a lot of people might wonder, okay, how effective is it? It's not going to be revolutionary. Don't expect to get like book bubble
It's
levels
$5.
at stuff.
Come on.
Right, yeah. But you saved yourself that time of going
Right.
painstakingly to each one of them for about an hour or 2 hours straight. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. You're like, yeah, just throw $5 at somebody and get it done with. I use
Wow.
them a lot for the free promos that I'll typically push out.
You mentioned, okay, so then we move on to Draft to Digital, which of course is just an amazing resource for authors. And
Yeah.
I'm slowly trying to push my clients to, okay, you should, yeah, KDP is fine, but let's graduate.
Draft to
Let's
Digital is amazing. In fact, actually, I don't know if you noticed inside the book itself, they are actually sponsors of my entire series. I'd actually reached out to Draft
Oh,
to Digital some time ago. They were the very first company I went to. I had this
yeah.
list of dream sponsors, and Draft to Digital is at the top. I've never asked them for a sponsorship, but I went in and I presented it to them, and yeah, they actually sponsored the first 8 parts in the 12-part series. Is what they ended up picking
That
up.
is amazing.
Yep,
So
love me some
you
Draft to
had
Digital.
mentioned that they are going to start extending into audio and more. Did you mention that? Because I was going through the notes and I was like, what did I write about that? But
Right now,
with
Draft to Digital reaches into Findaway Voices, so it directly integrates with them. I don't know that they have
okay,
audiobooks on their roadmap
hmm
because I think that right now they're just trying to improve what they have with ebooks and print books. Print books, I
right,
think that's what they're really focused on. In fact, they would really like to add hardcover to that, but they're trying to perfect what they have currently. Like you can't even do full color just yet over through Draft to Digital, but it's coming in due time. I've got some feelers in the. I'm kind of I'm the guy on the inside. I can't reveal too much on what they have going on because otherwise they'll disown me. I don't want that to happen,
okay.
obviously.
Have they mentioned a D-Day for Smash Words and Draft to Digital, where it's going to like no more Smash Words and all Draft to Digital? Have they done a D-Day yet? Or is that information?
They haven't had a solid date. I know that earlier this year their intent was to finish it up this year.
Okay.
And we're starting to get towards the end of the year, and I'm kind of
Right.
wondering if
That's
they're
what
going to
I'm like.
make it. So yeah, I don't know. At this point, they're trying to take their time because
Hmm
they have saw their contemporaries, their competitors, if you will, actually.
hmm
Places like Lulu and Ingram Spark, they tried pivoting back in 2020 when they changed the user interface, and everything crashed for both of those companies. It
Yeah.
became a PR nightmare. In fact, actually, it was funny. I'd done a sponsorship with Lulu back at that time earlier in the year. They told me to wait. It became such a incredible, like, sorry for lack of better terms, it was a shitstorm. Like there was all these authors. Lulu's trying to scam us. Lulu's taking my money. Lulu
Of
burned all my
course.
books. Lulu did this. Lulu, and same thing with Ingram Spark. And each one of the videos that I had with Lulu and Ingram Spark was getting a lot of just real negative comments because there were some angry people. So I think Draft to Digital saw the mistakes that those companies did and
Hmm
said, let's take our time. Let's
Yeah.
take our time, make sure that we move and migrate over. Smashwords has been around since 2007
Yeah. So
and
the database is probably massive.
huge, millions of books, if I can recall at this point, and they're having to kind of migrate those one at a time. And it's not like Draft to Digital is like a massive company. They're a
Hmm
pretty close knit team of authors that are working
Right.
together. So it's going to take some time. So I'm not going to rush them at all, but I am really excited to kind of finally see Smashwords fully integrated and uh, put into the whole drafted digital system. Because right now you can still access Smashwords, you can still publish directly through them.
Right.
I stopped doing it. I just started going through drafted digital and said,
That's
screw it,
what
I'll just go
yeah,
ahead and edit
that's what
that
I've
way.
been doing. It's like, oh, but I want them all together because they're family.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So when an author is trying to choose, okay, so we are going to do a paperback book. We are going to choose ebook.
Okay.
It should automatically the next step be audio and or should they just wait or should it all come out at once? Because I had an author that actually asked me that who we had I had given the books out at my car camping retreat, and one of the authors did ask me to ask you about that. She was coming out with an ebook and a paperback book. Should she come out with that audiobook all together or should she wait?
In a
or
perfect world, we
it's
could
better?
probably, yeah, it's a popular question, and honestly, I don't have a very exact answer because it's going to vary depending on the person and what their
Hmm.
goals are. So, in a perfect world, we would launch all three iterations. We would
Okay.
go ebook, paperback, hardcover, audiobook all at the same time. But full disclosure, this is going to let your students kind of relax just a little bit. I haven't done my audiobooks for this series yet because I know it's going to require a lot more production time than I have, and I
Hmm.
wasn't going to delay the launch of my books. I wanted to get them out into the marketplace. So that way
Right.
the ebooks and the print books could start to generate that revenue. Then I could take that revenue and reinvest it into the audiobooks. So this gives me a second life to this
Right.
particular book because now when those get ready to launch, the audiobook versions of that, I'll be able
Hmm.
to promote that to the moon and hopefully get another burst of sales, not just through
Right.
audiobooks, but through the ebooks and print books as well. So don't feel like you have to launch every single one of those things. I would say just make it your mission that you eventually get to that. Put it on your to-do list, put it on your goal list or your milestone list. So that way you don't let yourself down, that you don't let that audiobook listener down. Because
Hmm.
there's some people out there that will not read your book. It's no offense, there's nothing wrong with your book, but I think, heck, a good friend of mine, Dave Chesson, even said, hey, I'd love to check out your book if it's an audiobook version. He just doesn't have the time to go and read an ebook and
Right.
a print book. So having the audiobook, it's much easier. They can put it on 2x. They can listen to it while they're cleaning dishes or commuting
Hmm.
over to, work or something like that. So that is one of the nice things about audiobook, but don't feel like you have to get it out immediately. There is a solution though, and I'm going to just throw it out there. I know there's a lot of purist authors out there that don't like to hear this, but I'm going to throw it out there. Digital narration. There is always AI
I
that
was
you
going
can
to
go
ask
ahead and
you
lean
about
on.
that. I was
Yeah.
actually going to go into that.
So here's one of the issues with digital narration that I see for myself is I just don't like it. It's just too stilted for my liking. There
Hmm.
are some that are really improving, like 11 Labs, fantastic. They're really good. There's a new software out called Spoken Press is pretty good as well. I've just been
Hmm. I've heard of it.
checking them out. There
Hmm.
are a number of those things. If you don't mind digital narration or your readers don't mind digital narration, go for it because it can be relatively inexpensive and sometimes 100% free if you just find the right resources. And to me, you could always just put that digital narration out, gather the earnings from that, and then hire a narrator or a professional voiceover talent,
Hmm.
or even for that matter, an entire troupe that would, put together your fiction book of some sort. Get it to where you can earn that. Now, again, I just don't want digital narration on my audiobooks. I would
Hmm.
rather just go without right now and have that second release ready to kind of go with my actual voice. Because I think that's what
Right.
I think people are going to discover my books most likely through my YouTube channel. So I would
Right.
imagine they would probably be a little frustrated if all of a
They
sudden
wouldn't hear
they're
you.
having right, they have this stilted AI narration. It's not even
I'm
my
gonna,
voice
you know
and
what? I gotta say, Alexa did a pretty good job. And like, even when I was listening to her, I could still hear you. It was like you were talking through her because the way the book reads, it's like you're talking to me. You know, you write like you're talking. And I think that's so much fun. I like it. And the way she was talking and like the inflections and just the stopping and pausing, it was all you. I was like, okay, well, they'll just talk through Alexa pretty. So that's what I was like. I was like, oh my God, this book is so Dale because it's how he teaches and like I said, it wasn't a collegiate course. That's
yeah.
and that's what it felt. The book was like a master class, but a easy master class, and that's saying a lot. That's master, but I like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, to your point about the whole idea of it being very textbook like, trying to avoid it, and college level, here's the irony is the editor for my book is Jeannie DeVita. She is actually a UCLA creative writing instructor. So
oh my God.
so she knew, like, and she's watched tons of my videos before. We've had so many conversations. She's a great friend of mine, so she knows my voice. And every time that she was going and editing, she always thought to herself, like, how can we best preserve Dale's voice and also enhance it? So that way it doesn't take away from it. So she allowed a few things in there that might not be according to grammar rules, because she was like, that's so Dale. Like, if someone reads that, they'll know that's him.
Yeah. Okay, so how important are you as the World Wide Web expands with so many digital devices, and so many ways to read books, how important are universal links to authors?
Oh, they're critical. Absolutely critical. If you are promoting your books in person, no problem. You won't need a universal book link. All you'll need to do is, like, if you're just interested in getting readers in the US, you would provide a .com address. But to
Hmm.
me, I think that when you start to communicate outside of that close bubble, that inner circle, that immediate surroundings of you, you go online. Now
Hmm.
you're communicating to a global audience. And I think it's doing a great disservice to not only you, but more importantly, that potential reader, by giving them a link that directs them to a store in which they can't buy something. So, for instance, I'm here in the US. If I were to give an Amazon.com address to somebody who lives in Australia, they're going to visit that .com address and they're going to immediately see they can't buy the stuff. Like, they can't buy the ebook, and I think the print book would be like, the shipping would be so ridiculous that it just
Sure.
wouldn't even be worth it. So this is where
Right.
universal book links are absolutely necessity, and they're free. They're free out there, for crying out loud. You can get universal book links done by
Right.
Books to Read, which is run and owned by Draft 2 Digital. You can get one through BookLinker, which is run and owned by Genius Link, another great company, by the way, for doing affiliate
Hmm.
links and such. There are so many resources. If you have Story Origin, they have universal book links that you can do through their service as
Right.
well. Granted, Story Origin isn't free, but that just kind of illustrates that you can have a specific tool that can do the universal
Right.
book links. But go that extra mile, because it removes that friction. Because when you have someone who is going to visit your product page, there's already friction put in there. Is your
Hmm.
cover good? Is your description good? Is your price point good? Do you have any reviews? Those 4 items, we have to answer those things. Can you imagine that you add on to it, that you make that reader jump through the hoops like, oh, I can't buy it here. First inclination for most people is, oh, I can't buy it. Oh, it must be a
Hmm.
bad link. Buy out. If there is someone who goes, oh, this is a .com address, I need to be over in .co.jp over in Japan. Let me
Hmm.
go ahead. I'll go ahead and do that. There's going to be a rare few people that will do that. But then again, you've just created another layer of friction on top of the 4 that's already there. Cover, title, description, price point, and reviews. Actually 5, I think. So, you're looking at creating so much friction. Remove that friction for those potential readers, so that way they have options. And places like Books to Read, I love it that you can tell them in all the stores that you're available, not just Amazon. So if you happen to be just
Right.
publishing strictly to Amazon, use BookLinker, because BookLinker is just Amazon specific, and it's free, by the way, through Genius Link.
Hmm.
Books to Read's pretty good. If you plan on to expand beyond Amazon, they'll give all of the different retail options. Now you have to hand key in some of those things, but once it's done, it's done. I'll go in when I launch a book, usually a week to 2 weeks after it's been launched, and I'll update all of those links. So that way, when someone visits my universal book link, they have every retail option possible. So that
Hmm.
way, there's no friction whatsoever.
You had a quick course in ads in the book. I call it a quick
Yeah.
course because I know that's another War and Peace novel in itself.
Yeah.
So I was amazed, like when it got into that chapter, and then I was like looking at the pages, I was like, there's no way he's going to be able to tell me everything I know about ads. But amazingly, you not only teach about it, but then you give like out of the box tips to help. And I like that. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about number one, not putting all your ads in one basket, and also, and I'll add that comment after you finish. But I do want you to talk about that. Like, how can you pinpoint as an author what's the best way to where I should put my ads? Because there's so many places you can put book ads.
Oh, yeah.
Where should I put it? What would be a great for beginning, and what would be great for advanced? Somebody with one book to compare to somebody with multiple books. So those two, I want you to hit on those.
So
I know.
the very first thing is, yeah, there's tons of ads you can pick out there. And what I would recommend is, don't shotgun it. Don't just go over
Hmm.
and spray and pray and hope for the best. It is not the way
I
to go
love that.
because obviously this isn't free. You have to pay for these ads. I would say go with the path of least resistance. Yeah, there is places like Google, YouTube, and Facebook that you can pour
Hmm.
ad money into, but you have a more warm audience over on Amazon. And it's a much simpler system through Amazon ads than it is through platforms like Facebook because Facebook becomes a bit overwhelming. And, with
Yeah.
Amazon ads, it's a little bit more basic. And not to mention, they have an entire free course that you can kind of go through that will help you understand the Amazon ads ecosystem. As far as what's the best first steps in something like that, with Amazon ads, start low, scale slow. Go into it with the intent of
Mhm.
learning, and with that learning, you're going to probably spend anywhere from about $1 to $5 per day. Ideally,
Mhm.
if you have a budget up to $10 per day, great. But only invest what you can stand to lose. And when you go into this
Mhm.
and you're testing out these ads, it's not enough that you just let it sit passively. Much like everything else that we have mentioned previously to this, is you actually have to manage this on a regular basis. In fact, if you've never done Amazon ads before, you need to be monitoring it every day if you can. You need to also be plugging into any learning that you can possibly. That book, I gave you a teaser, obviously of setting up Amazon ads. I do have a
Right.
full book about Amazon advertising, and I'm sure that we'll talk about that
Right.
in future interviews. For the most part, what you'll want to do is just set it up with the intent to learn. And if you
Mhm.
earn in the meantime, great, fantastic. But from a standpoint of learning, just take your time, understand how the dashboard works,
Mhm.
figure out what are you getting pulled up in search terms. In that search terms report, you're going to be able to discover what's converting and what's not converting. You figure
Mhm.
out what's not converting and you suppress it. You figure out what's converting and you build ad campaigns off of that. And then it starts to just really grow, brick by brick. You're going to find that it's going
Right.
to build an amazing business if you just stick to it. Do not give up. Don't believe the hype of Amazon ads isn't for everyone. Amazon ads is for everyone. It's just unfortunately you need to be willing to learn and of course spend a
Mhm.
significant amount of money.
But once you get into it, you can kind of see, and like you said, you can learn from it and then just grow from there. Pivoting from that, let's talk about diversified income for authors because yeah, like we said in the beginning, authors get stuck on that. I'm just going to sell books. That's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to sell books. Why shouldn't an author just have that mindset? Why shouldn't they want to do, even the stuff you suggested was just it's you're not even pivoting away because a lot of them are thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm a book writer. I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah.
I'm this. So why should they even try?
Man, you owe it to yourself. I will say the very first thing is if you want to just get into this business to just publish books and be done with it, that's fantastic. But I'm going to tell you that by and large, most authors out there, and indie authors more importantly,
Hmm.
aren't making a substantial living from their books themselves. It's typically some type of a back end of some sort. Now, unless you have a deep backlog of books and you've got a solid marketing and promotional plan, relying on books sales alone is just a recipe for disaster. So you might as well get paid your
Hmm.
value outside of that book. There's so many ways that you can diversify things. I mean, for instance, a prime example would be YouTube. I've gone on YouTube and I've made a substantial amount of money
Hmm.
from AdSense. I get some also from affiliate sales. I also get some from sponsorships. Those are three big revenue drivers for me from doing YouTube. If I stripped that away and I was just paid for my publishing business, could I live on it? Yeah, I could still live on it. But I will tell you, it would be a little bit more difficult. Having these additional streams of revenue make life a little bit easier. So if for some reason you're looking at wanting to be a full-time author or even a part-time author,
Hmm.
diversifying your income can be a game changer. And you don't need to think about, oh, well, Dale said YouTube, so I better go to YouTube. No, it doesn't have to be YouTube. It could be some other social media platform. It could be something else like a back end to your sales. So if you're a nonfiction author, oh my gosh, get out of here. I probably should write an entire book about how nonfiction authors can
Oh
really
my
capitalize
God,
so
they
much
could
more
be
than fiction.
rich,
Yeah,
rich.
exactly. You can, for nonfiction authors, I mean, you can do courses, consulting, you can do any type of big sales funnel you can be able to build from those types of things. And that's how you're wanting to diversify. Now, for some reason, it's too much work for you. Put a pen into it. Come back to it another day. When you find yourself starting to struggle going, I can't afford my editor, or I can't afford my
Mhm.
book cover designer, or I can't afford this, or I can't afford that. Start to think about diversifying your income so that way you can afford it. That's one of the lines that I absolutely hate. It was something that was said to me when I was a boy was, we can't afford that. We can't afford that. I'm an adult now. You know what I
Um,
never say is I never say I can't afford that. I just make it happen.
right. And even, I mean, I do have a large list of books. I do have a huge catalog of it, but I still find myself, I still need that drip coming in the background to pay for, because yeah, the books pay for themselves, and then that extra money can pay for other stuff. But then I still would like to go on a trip sometime.
Yeah, exactly,
I
right?
want to buy whatever I want in my Amazon cart without it being, oh my God, I gotta wait till next time my royalties drop. But yeah, that diversified is so important. And I was gonna say, like, oh man, you should come up with like an offline book as well, like how they can also diversify, because it's so many options out there. I think, and I love that you enticed us into like, oh well, maybe I should think about that. I like how in the book you enticed us. So even if we weren't thinking about it, like you're like, oh, maybe I should. And then you gave us like tips and tricks. Now for affiliate programs, which you touched upon,
Mhm.
um, do you think, like, is there a sure, like, of course the Amazon affiliate, of course, if you're not using them for
Absolutely.
your own books, then you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
You can, to know that you can double dip in Jeff Bezos' pocket is just,
And they
it's kind
encourage
of
it
like,
too. Yeah, and they encourage it. Actually, a lot of people are like, is this legal for me to use Amazon Associates to promote my books? Yeah, they want you to do it. They want you to
right.
sell books through their links because here's the thing is when you start to drive traffic and people buy other things outside of your books, you're going to make even more revenue and Amazon makes even more revenue. So they're happy that you're going to go ahead
Yeah.
and do that instead of say sending somebody over to Kobo or Barnes and Noble. Like you're sending it to
Mhm.
their site. So they're willing to go ahead and reward you. And I believe it's like a 2.5 to 4% revenue or commission that you'll get for every sale.
Mhm.
That's not taken from your bottom line. That's taken from Amazon's bottom line. So definitely tap into it. But yeah, you were saying the affiliate program for sure. Amazon Associates, get yourself set up on something like that. But as to your question, what were you
I was
saying?
gonna say, are there other affiliate programs? Like, do you know if like Draft Digital might offer, or should authors start using, like, is there Barnes and Noble's affiliate? Someone did ask me that. Is there other
Yep.
affiliates where they can just go in, and if they want to sell their books or other author books and things like that, do you know of any?
Well, first of all, Drafted Digital doesn't have an affiliate program, but they do have a referral program. So if you refer an author over to them, I think it's like for the first 2 years, you get a percentage of Drafted Digital's earnings
Just
from each of those
serious.
sales. So yeah, I get a nice little small chunk of change here every month because I've referred people over to Drafted Digital. But that
Wow.
isn't so much what I think a lot of authors are going to probably want. So what was one of the affiliate programs you had mentioned
So
there?
like Barnes and Nobles, kind of
Oh
like,
yeah,
do they have those?
they
And
do.
where can like authors look into finding those? Because I mean, yeah, the Amazon is great, but then I know people who have Kobo, or people who have Barnes, who have Nooks and things like
Yep.
that. So are there other affiliates, or can we find that in the
Yeah,
dalelinks.com?
probably. I don't know about deal links that you'll be able to find it, but you're going to find it through a simple Google search. Literally, this
Uh-huh.
is exactly what I do. It's not sexy. It's you're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's that simple. I literally just Google it. I go
Okay.
Barnes and Noble affiliate program, and I believe they're actually Commission Junction, which is CJ. I believe that they're that one. Kobo is through Rakuten. Apple's got their own affiliate program. Let's see here.
Um,
Google Play Partner Center, they also have their own affiliates. So you just have to do a little bit of research ahead of time. And
mhm.
if you're using books to read for your universal book links, you can take your code for your affiliate ID for each one of those profiles, slip it in there. So if you make sales through that link, it'll stack up even more. So this is another reason why using a universal book link makes a huge difference because then it's going to put your affiliate ID in there. You're going to make more money on each one of those sales. And you best believe I've got an affiliate link on every single one of those things. It's a pain in the butt, When you initially go and find those things, you have to sit here and
Right.
search it up, and you find it. You have to put in your tax form and your bank account information and all that stuff. But after you're done with that initial setup, guess what?
Hmm.
That's it. All you got to
Yeah.
do is just insert those codes one time through Books to Read, and then when you create a new universal book link, it'll automatically put your code on there. So that way, when somebody visits a specific link, it'll credit you that, and you get that sale. You'll get that additional percentage more. Some of the programs will give you a decent amount of percentage, and other ones
Mhm.
give you like a pittance. I say it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, it's just trying to get to the premium gas level.
Right,
You just
exactly.
you just want that drip income. You want something just dripping into an account that, you can set it up, promote it, and then just say, hey, that's it. And it was one sentence you said that really, I love that. And that's one of the things that you said to challenge people. You're going to have to do what others won't and others don't. I think that's what you think. That's how you said it. It
Yeah.
was really pivotal because it made you like sit up and then say, you're right. In order for me to get ahead, I'm going to have to take that step in a direction of what other authors aren't doing.
Yep.
And then it makes you open it up. But I wanted you to talk about it a little bit because it was just fascinating to hear and how you kind of push us
Yeah.
push
It,
us into, oh, do it.
yeah, it can be, I think I learned that one through, it might have been Jim Rohn. I used to study a lot of self-help stuff, and you get what
Mhm.
others don't, um, because they won't go that extra mile. There are some people that like, screw it. I don't feel like going and get those affiliate links. I don't feel like filling out that bank account information. Well, in the same instance, when you don't feel like doing something, guess what you don't get? What pretty much what everybody else doesn't get. So go that extra step. I can't tell you how many times there's been so many authors that I swear I just have to beat it over their head where I'm like, use a universal book link. Use a universal book link. Hey, use a universal book link. Like you're like creating more work for everybody else. Why are you doing that?
Right.
Go that extra step. And it might seem small, but it's those small things. I think it's called Ling Chi, Death by a Thousand Cuts. You're literally torturing yourself and your business with small cuts. Make sure that you're patching those things up. Do the
Mhm.
extra stuff so that way you are rewarded
I
for
like
it.
that.
Now, I'm not telling you to do a bunch of just wasteful work, some time consuming
Mhm.
work by any stretch, but just those small extra things do add up over time. Trust me, like again, I'm paying my bills with this money.
Mhm.
My wife and I are living a pretty good, comfortable lifestyle. And
Mhm.
I want to continue to live that comfortable lifestyle, if not get a little bit more comfortable. So that's why I go that extra mile. That's why I do spend that extra time putting together universal book links or creating a press kit or creating a audiobook version of my books on my own.
Mhm.
Those are all things that add up in due time because I'm going that extra mile. Go that extra mile for your readers. If you can think of
Mhm.
that in an ad aspect, let's remove the money part of things out of there. Do it for the readers because the readers are the ones that are going to
Mhm.
put you on top of their shoulders and parade you around
Right.
town and tell people just how awesome you are.
Right. So, okay, it's kind of like a two-part question. It's kind of going into the last part. How important is audio and video going into the years to come for the author to do and focus on, for their books, for their marketing? How important is that? And what are they not seeing? Why this is important?
Ooh, I think when an author doesn't see the value in something, obviously they're just not going to invest their time.
Hmm.
I think that there is this filter that a lot of authors have, and they go, "Oh, I don't like audio podcasts, or I don't like YouTube, or I don't like TikTok." But the vast majority of your readers out there, I don't care who you are consuming audio and video in some capacity. And
Hmm.
so the authors that are leveraging audio and video to put themselves out there to market and promote their brand have an unfair advantage. I am going to state it right now that me being on YouTube with what 113,000 subscribers between two channels, I'm very
Hmm.
public. I've got an unfair advantage over a lot of people that don't have that.
Right.
because I've taken years to build that and grow that brand and such. And it gets me that reach. So I've got that unfair advantage. And the authors that don't equip themselves with that audio and video, I think they are, it's not that they're doing a disservice to their business, because there's some people that just audio and video just will never resonate with them. And that's fine. Don't force yourself to do it if you don't think that you should do it. But I'm going to tell you, there are other authors out there that are going to take advantage of those tools, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
use it in a way that's going to get them ahead of what you're doing. So what I would say is get ahead of the curve. And I don't know, it could probably be you start your own podcast, you get your own YouTube channel, you get your TikTok, or you go over on Instagram Reels. Get yourself to where you're visible, because that's the name of the game when it comes to marketing and promotion. Visibility. How can you make yourself visible
Mm-hmm.
every single day? Well, I'll tell you how I made myself visible. I published 1,600 freaking videos between two channels. So that is so visible. I am in everybody's faces
Right.
and everybody's timelines. And that has come from
Right.
years of just working at it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're just reluctant to embrace audio and video, ask yourself why. Why are you reluctant to do that? Because
Right.
there is an audience just waiting to discover you if you only just step out just a little outside your comfort zone, be it going into a podcast interview, be it going
Right.
into a TikTok or a reel or anything of those other things. So, and by the way, I'm just naming these ones generically speaking. It's not like I'm
Mm-hmm.
encouraging everybody to go out to do TikTok or Instagram reels. Just figure out what resonates with you
What
most.
works with you,
And
right?
yeah, and figure out where your audience is at too. Like, where is your
Mm-hmm.
audience? Try to meet where they're at. Figure out how they're consuming the audio and video. And I will tell you, it's so much easier to do an audio podcast or a video versus writing a whole new book or pumping a ton of money into Amazon ads when you probably may not even know it. Everybody knows how to turn on a camera, shoot, and upload it over online. So that is much easier than trying to learn a pay-per-click ad campaign.
So I was just about to ask, what's a quick setup? And
Make it
that was
simple.
it.
Yep, and
Yeah.
make it simple. There's so many authors out there, and big shout out to old friend of mine. He since passed a couple years ago, Walter Wyburn. Walter is the epitome of someone who just never gave up. He had been struggling for years. He succeeded as an indie author. He was doing really good, and then he got deplatformed. Amazon kicked him off. They said, "You out of here." He did okay on his own, but then he just started to falter. So then he started a YouTube channel. That faltered, but then it was about April 2020 when my content manager reached out to me, and she said, "Have you seen Walter's YouTube channel?" I was like, "Yeah, what?" And she's like, "No, have you seen it recently?" And I was like, "No, why?" She goes, "Go over there." He became viral. The man blew up. He ended up getting 100,000 subscribers in less than a year. And he was pulling in, and I'm not at liberty to say how much he was pulling in AdSense every month, but we'll just put it this way, that it cast a shadow over his entire self-publishing business, how much he was making on the monthly. And when he did finally pass, he left a significant amount of earnings with his family that they were set, I'm sure, for a long time. So that just kind of goes to show that. And with Walter, by the way, to make things clear, he just point and shot. That was literally it. This man, at one point or another, he had 360p was the quality of video. Most videos over on YouTube are 720p, 1080p, 360p. It was very granular, grainy. It was very grainy looking. The audio was okay. Funny point is, he's already taken off. He's doing great. He's getting hundreds of thousands of views. And I see in his background a fancy DSLR camera. And this dang thing is collecting dust. I said, "What are you doing with that over there, man?" He goes, "Oh, should I use that?" I'm like, "Don't listen to me. You've succeeded this far without any of my advice." And so it just kind of goes to show you don't need anything perfect. Just point, shoot, go.
I was just about to ask you, like, yeah, quick, because I do have, like, there are people who say, well, I got to get my hair done, or, the guys will be like, well, I didn't shave, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what, and I'm like, just open up the camera.
Just do it.
Do it.
Just do it. I
Okay,
can't tell you
so
how many excuses I've tried to make for myself over the years, and some of them are just so ridiculous where I'm like, "Oh, I need to go work out first because I need to make sure I fill out my shirt a little bit more. I need to shave and things." Stop making excuses. Just point and shoot. Nobody else cares
Right.
about how you look or if you've said something perfectly. Just do it.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just say, look, this is an open up the camera moment, so take me as I am. This is it. This is all. So the last thing, and I
Mhm.
know we went over our time, and I mean, I don't want to, it's just been awesome. I like that you can take these books and even if I open them up 2 years from now, the information that you have, it'll be still significant. And I know that from like my 20 years of just seeing resource books. I like that, like, this information can be carried on. And I was like, oh, good job. I had to tell you that, because I was like,
Thank you.
there are so many books. If I wish I could show you this horrible bookshelf I have, but there are so many books like I can't even use anymore. Like, okay, I bought them when they were hot, and then the resources, I can't do that anymore. That was back in 2010. That was big, and I won't throw it away because it's a resource book. But it's just the fact that I want to be able to carry something over, and I want to point that out, that this is stuff that you need to know no matter where you're stepping into the marketing, publishing, and promotion stages as an author. So lastly, what do you feel is what authors should be doing to prepare for the next year? What can they put in their resource? I've read these books, and now I'm going over to, of course, we're going to mention 3 and 4, but what should they be putting in their baskets to be ready to set up for next year so they don't have to run and catch up?
Are you
Or
talking about?
how can they prepare themselves so they don't have to run and catch up?
Oh gosh, I think it's just being ahead of the game sometimes,
Mhm.
and you have to rely on your intuition. That's going to be the one thing, and also know what your goals are. As an author,
Yeah,
you should know your goals better than me.
definitely.
You shouldn't watch like a video and expect some YouTuber to tell you exactly what you need to do and where to go, because there's not a one size fits all. You have to figure out what resonates with you, what are the resources that are available to you, and then you can move forward
Hmm.
from there. But I can anticipate, though, that if you stay tuned to the Self Publishing with Dale series, I'm going to hook you up with all the things that you need to get going. Everything from A to Z. In fact, I'll be covering email marketing for authors, YouTube for authors. I'll be talking about the bestseller book launch plan. There's so
Hmm.
much that I have on the horizon. I'm so super excited. And I think it's actually this Friday, as of we're recording this, that I'm launching my 5th book, which is How to Write a Nonfiction Book in 24 Hours, which, by the way, was a book that I wrote in 24 hours. That was a fun experience. Big shout out and special thanks to Sylvia Hubbard for guest hosting. Get more details about Sylvia at sylviahubbard.com. We'll continue this conversation real soon with the subsequent releases in the Self Publishing with Dale series, so stay tuned. Till then, you can pick up a copy of Self Publishing for New Authors and Advanced Self Publishing for Authors at every major retailer or library.